Here's a question worth sitting with for a second. If your employer's stock dropped 40% tomorrow and your team's headcount got cut the same week, would that be a bad month or a redrawn life? For a lot of people watching this, the honest answer is the second one, and most of them have never actually said it out loud. That is the strange thing about employer stock concentration. Almost nobody decides to bet half their net worth on one company. The RSUs vest, the stock goes up, the position grows, and one day you look up and a single company is most of what you own, and you never made a decision to get there. Today, I'm going to give you a framework you can apply to your own balance sheet today. We'll cover the difference between concentration you chose and concentration that just happened, how to calculate your real single stock exposure, the correlated risk that standard diversification math misses, and the specific percentage thresholds worth reacting to. If you have a meaningful equity position at your company, this one is for you. Let's get into it. Start with the distinction that changes everything. There is a real difference between choosing to hold a large position in your company and simply ending up with one. A deliberate concentration decision sounds like this. You understand the company deeply. You have a view on where it is going that you can actually articulate. You have sized the position against the rest of your balance sheet. And you've decided the upside is worth the risk of a large drawdown. You know the number and you chose it. Concentration by default sounds like nothing at all because no decision was ever made. The RSUs vested and you held them because selling felt like a tax event you did not want to trigger. The position grew because the stock went up. You never picked a target, so you never noticed when you blew past one. Here is the key point. The problem with concentration by default is not that the position is large. It is that no one is steering. We made that case previously that holding your company stock is not a strategy. This is the same idea applied to the size of the position rather than the fact of it. A 50% concentration you chose with open eyes is a position. A 50% concentration that piled up while you were not paying attention is an accident that happens to be working so far. Those two situations can look identical on a statement. They are completely different in how much control you actually have. So let's get to the number because you cannot manage an exposure you have not measured. Most people dramatically understate how concentrated they are. And the reason is simple. They only count the shares sitting in their brokerage account. Your true exposure is much bigger than that. Start with the vested shares you already hold. Then add the shares you will receive from RSUs that have not vested yet, but almost certainly will, because for most tenured employees, that is real future wealth already spoken for. Add the in-the-money value of your vested options. Add the value of unvested options you expect to keep. Add whatever is sitting in your ESPP. And if you early exercised, add those shares too. That whole total goes in the numerator. In the denominator, you put your full investable net worth. That is your brokerage accounts, your 401k and your IRAs, your cash beyond an emergency reserve, and any other liquid investments. Your primary residence usually stays out of this calculation because you cannot easily spend it, and its value does not rise and fall with your employer. The percentage you get is almost always higher than the one in your head. We walked through the diversification side of this in a previous video. This calculation is the front half of that work. Run it once and write the number down because every other decision in this video depends on that single figure. Now here's the part that I think most people miss. Single stock risk is only half of your exposure. The other half is that your paycheck and your portfolio are bets on the same company. Think about what your employer actually is. It is not just a large holding. It is the source of your salary, your bonus, your future RSU vests, your health insurance, and your equity position, all at the same time. When the company does well, all of those move up together. That feels great, but when the company does poorly, they fall together, and they tend to fall at the same moment. That correlation is exactly what standard diversification math misses. A financial model might tell you a 30% position in one stock is aggressive but survivable. What that model does not know is that the same company also pays your mortgage. So picture the bad scenario. The stock falls because the business is truly struggling. That is frequently the same quarter the layoffs get announced, and the same year the refresh grants shrink. You can lose the portfolio and the income in one move. And that is precisely the moment you would otherwise have wanted to lean on one to ride out trouble in the other. This is why a tech employee should treat any given concentration level as riskier than the same percentage would be for someone whose income comes from a totally unrelated source. The stock and the salary are not two separate bets. They are one bet made twice. Okay, so what are the actual numbers? Let me give you some thresholds with one important caveat. These are guidelines for reflection, not rules of law. There's no regulation that sets a correct concentration level. These are simply the points where the conversation should change. Below 10% of your investable net worth in a single stock, that is a position most people can hold without it threatening the plan. This is the zone where concentration is a preference, not a risk management problem. Between 10 and 20% is where it becomes a deliberate choice that deserves a deliberate answer. At this level, you should be able to state why you were holding it and what specifically would make you trim. Above 20%, and certainly as you approach 30% or more, you are in territory where a single bad year at the company can reshape your financial life. Now, this is not a reason to panic sell everything tomorrow. That creates its own tax and timing problems. It is a reason to have a written plan to bring the position down over time, which is exactly what we covered in a previous video. The exact number that is right for you depends on your income stability, your other assets, your time horizon, and how much volatility you can absorb without changing your behavior. The point of the thresholds is not precision. The point is to convert a vague sense of unease into a concrete trigger so that you act on a number rather than on a feeling after the stock has already moved against you. So here's the bottom line. The question was never whether holding your employer's stock is good or bad. It is whether the size of the position is a decision you made or an outcome that happened to you. Measure your true exposure, including the unvested equity. Remember that your income and your investments are riding on the same company. And pick a threshold you will actually act on before the market picks one for you. If you want to talk through your specific situation, the link to schedule a call is in the description. And if you haven't subscribed to Vested yet, my weekly newsletter for Bay Area tech professionals, the link for that is down there too. I'll see you next week.